Evening all. I recently overheard a conversation where two people were chatting away, and one person said to the other that they'd been looking for a new house to live in, and they went and viewed a house where the woman had an AstroTurf lawn, which she cleaned by hoovering it with a vacuum cleaner. And it was what was being described as one of these new build houses, one of these huge, great box things that they build. Where they overlook each other and where there isn't that much of a garden. But I thought, well, that can't be true. If it is, it's obviously very eccentric and so on. But I Google searched AstroTurf lawns, and lo and behold, it's real. And there's a massive range of companies that provide AstroTurf lawns. And I've called this video AstroTurf Lawns, or How the World Went Utterly Bonkers, because the reason I didn't take it seriously when I first heard about it is that it just sounded so insane, the whole concept of it. But no, it's a reality. And in many ways, I think it does, symbolise one of the ways our society is going, and the utter insanity of some of it. Now, some of you may know this or may not know this, but I'm quite interested in the environment, in ecology, and things like that. So the whole idea of an AstroTurf lawn is something that goes completely against my kind of view of the world. My approach to gardening is that I like a nice garden with some flowers in it, but generally speaking, I always have wild patches, and I grow wildflowers and let the thistles grow and the stinging nettles because of the habitat they provide for wildlife. I'm just afraid of the kind of ridiculous, kind of synthetic world that we seem to be creating in modern society. And part of it is to do with people's bizarre idea of how to bring up children. Apparently the lady with the AstroTurf lawn who was being talked about said that she needed the AstroTurf lawn so her children could play out. What? In my day we played out, and of course you didn't just play out in a kind of completely synthetic world so you can't kind of get a little bit of mud on you. Of course that's not what children did. Part of growing up was that you go out and sort of get dirty and so forth, and you discover nature as well. The idea that you should kind of protect children from ever encountering a stinging nettle in case they get hurt. Where does that insanity come from? Part of growing up is that you learn that if you kind of walk through stinging nettles, you're going to get stung, and therefore you learn not to do it. It's part of growing up. What child, in my day when I grew up in the 70s, what child didn't get stung with stinging nettles? But the attitude today seems to be that such a thing is horrifying. How dare one allow a child to be stung by a stinging nettle or a wasp or something? And you must eradicate these things from their environment completely and never allow them to come in contact with something as disgusting as a spider or a beetle or a slug. It's frightening the way in which what our society seems to be doing is increasingly going down the road of taking the view that children in particular, the very people who need to be still with a love of the countryside and with the environment, that children should grow up in a completely synthetic, artificial environment and never be allowed to come into contact with nature. Not just the good things, but the bad things, the dangerous things like stinging nettles. But no, completely sanitize them from nature. And, how on earth do you expect people to grow up with a love of the countryside and a concern for wildlife and the environment if they never come into contact with it? Because they're forced into this completely artificial, sanitized world of AstroTurf lawns and block paved drives and things like this, where their own gardens are completely wildlife free. You know, and also, I mean, no wonder that things like the hedgehog population is collapsing and the population of wild birds is collapsing. Um, you know, given that people are kind of completely destroying the environment in their own back gardens in this ridiculous way. I mean, as for the AstroTurf lawn people, well, yes, they might clean it with a vacuum cleaner, but you know, imagine what happens when next door's cat has a massive dump on it. I mean, what happens when you know, the pigeon flies over it and does a massive dump in it? I mean, you know, there's only so far that you. I mean, I imagine they get down there with a bucket and brush or something, but you know, you don't have to worry about that with a natural garden. You know, you shovel it up the best you can, and then the slugs and snails do the rest, and the beetles. You know, nature's cleaners. You know, and within a few days in the summer, it's all gone because it's been disposed of by the beetles, the sexton beetles, and the dung beetles, and all the rest of it that get rid of the matter of that kind. But no. But you know, you only have to wonder what goes through the minds of someone who would buy an AstroTurf lawn. I mean, they're not exactly cheap either, but you know, and when it's combined with a block paved drive, you know, and your little AstroTurf lawn, you know, I mean, it's just a completely artificial environment, and you know, I despair. Anyway, thanks for listening.